Welcome to Leading the Way. This podcast is all about communication and leadership. We're looking at what it means to shape the future with communication, content, and purpose-driven leadership. In each episode, we'll share stories from life in the Communication Leadership Master's Program at the University of Washington, talking about everything from using grad school to change careers to mental health as a student and as a professional. I'm your host, Jazz Espiritu, and I am so excited to be here hosting our third episode of Leading the Way. I'm Head of Program Affairs at the Communication Leadership Master's Program, otherwise known as CommLead. Our CommLead community is filled with incredible people from all walks of life. What brings us together is our passion to take those experiences and lead. In this podcast, you'll get to hear from all sorts of folks in our community, and my hope is it helps drive your story and how you choose to tell it. On today's episode, our guest will be talking about what it means to be a first-generation college student in grad school. I'm so excited to have this conversation because the first time I ever heard of first-generation college student, I was an undergrad. But it wasn't until I was at the cusp of joining my own graduate program that I realized I am a first-generation student. And it was a huge impact on how I approach the world and my life. I remember being a senior in high school, I was just about to join the Air Force. And my mom and I were having almost daily arguments about college. And they were so affirming while also so frustrating. She would yell at me saying, "I love you. I came to this country so you could have a better life. And that's why I want you to go to college." And I would yell back, "No, I love you. And we can't afford college. I don't want our family to go to debt." It wasn't until she reached her limit and called up my cousin-in-law, he's the dentist in the family, to convince me to go to college. He asked me what was stopping me, and we talked through it, and it gave me enough courage to apply to a university, apply to financial aid, and set me on such a different path than what I was expecting. First-generation college student, or first gen, is widely defined as someone whose parents do not have a bachelor's degree. Another way of looking at it is that they're the first in their family to pursue a college education, and therefore will hopefully be the first to have a higher education degree. Now, some institutions have broadened the definition of first gen to include parents who have attended community college or have attended international universities. Their kids are also considered first gen. We have two wonderful guests with us today. Can you please do a quick introduction with your name and your cohort?
Hi, my name is Margarita Aguado, and I am cohort 2024.
Hi, my name is Michelle Rojas, and I am cohort 2024.
Margarita and Michelle are both currently CommLead grad students in our program and who are also first-gen students. Thank you both for being here and talking about your first-gen identity.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. So I want to start us off by asking if anything from my personal story with my mom resonated with either of you. Margarita, you want to start us off?
Yeah, honestly, I was kind of tearing up as you were telling your story because I feel like there was a point in my high school journey. Maybe I'll start from the beginning. I always knew that I was a first gen, well, probably since the 8th grade, because when I was in 8th grade, there was a scholarship called the College Bound Scholarship. And I knew I wanted to go to college as a kid. I was kind of set in my head by my parents. And then I got that scholarship. And as we were approaching my senior year, I was like, we don't have money. Even with this, I don't remember how much it was, but I don't think it was enough to get me through 4 years. I was like, there's no way I'm going to go to a 4-year university and be able to afford that. Like, we're already struggling as it is. And I was considering, I don't know what the really hefty military one is, but they would always visit my school. Michelle, we went to the same school. You might know what I'm talking about. But they're like
I don't.
Well, hold on. You both are from the same school?
Yeah.
Like high school?
Yeah.
Oh, hey. Oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like almost similar timelines, but like different years.
Okay.
Yeah. Like we both lived in Burien, went to the same high school, and then we both like ended up moving to Kent. And
Yeah. It was pretty wild.
Very cool. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so the military folks would always come and be like, "Hey, join us," and that was a consideration of mine because I had an uncle who was in the Navy, and my mom was very much like, "No, you're not going to do that. Like that's not safe, and you're a woman, and it's dangerous for women in there." And she had all this like these ideas, and I was just trying to figure out how to still grow up and not be a burden to my parents. And I was like, that's a pathway that I could go. Luckily, I didn't because I don't think I would have survived that experience. And I think I did appreciate the college experience a little bit more. Yeah.
I remember that now that you say that. I do remember them coming. And
Yeah.
I'm like, my parents told me to say no.
They almost got me. They were like, okay, we're going to start a training now. And I was like, okay. And my mom was like, no, you're not. And I was like, oh, guess I'm not. Sorry. But yeah.
Wow. So was it like maybe Army, maybe Navy? Army, Navy?
It
I want
was
to say, yeah.
the Marines.
I was
It was
the
the
Marines. It was the Marines.
Marines. That's how I knew I wasn't going to survive
It was
that.
like one of them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think so. I feel like it's like a family, like almost immigrant type of mentality where it's like, you're not going to do this because you have to go to further your education. Like nothing can stop that progress. And so I remember them like specifically telling me that. And I also have two older sisters and they were like, yeah, don't forget, so kind of like prepping me. So when that time came in high school, I was like, oh, okay. I know what's going on.
You know what they were up to.
Yeah.
Which, it's still like a very viable career path if folks want to go that way. But I think that when you're considering college or when college is kind of brought to you in such a young age, it really does feel like two very different paths. One that seems super helpful right in the beginning, and one that feels like it could be a pretty big burden, even if you have a scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
How about you, Michelle? Anything come up from the story I shared or even what Margarita shared?
Yeah, touching base with Margarita, I didn't know I was going to go to college like in 8th grade, but I did because I have two older sisters. I saw what they were doing and what like their paths were, and they're 10 and 11 years older than I am. So I was like, okay, when I'm in I guess in middle school, I was already kind of experiencing one of them coming here to the UW actually. And I was like, oh, cool. Like she went to business school and she likes accounting and she likes numbers. I have no idea what I want to do. And I wasn't thinking about like any of that. So I felt almost slightly pressured, like, oh my gosh, I have to follow my sister's like steps. My parents are counting on me. I don't know how I'm going to do it with like the whole money thing. Yeah, it was just slightly like confusion, pressure, and just trying to kind of go along with it. So what I did first was go into Seattle Central Community College, which is now Seattle Central College, I believe. So I did like 3 years there. And then I transferred over here. And so that kind of gave me like a time frame to like figure out what I really wanted to do. And I changed my majors. And so it was more of a like pressure on me from my sister and my family and me still trying to figure it out throughout that time. So, yeah.
I'm also the youngest in my family. But the difference is I have an older brother, and I don't know how it is with other families, but at least like my family and typically in Mexican families, the boys are treated very differently from the girls. And growing up, I think my parents were a lot easier on my brother when it came to education, but they were really strict on me with education. So I think part of that was also why I was like, well, I have to go to college because my brother's not gonna. And and like my parents have done all these different things. So like my dad, he's an immigrant from Mexico. He traveled up to the States when he was like 14. He only went to, I think the highest grade he went to was like the 3rd grade. And then he had to start helping his family because he was the oldest in his family and he was the firstborn son. And then my mom, she had a little bit more time with her education, but she also had to be like the second parent in her family because her parents were divorced, and it was pretty much her mom raising them. And she was like 6 years older than her brother, so she was teenage age, and at that time they're like, okay, you're an adult, you can help out around the house. So she kind of had to give up some of her dreams of going to school, which is something that her mother also wanted for all of her kids. But she did go to community college, I think, for a bit, but she didn't get to go to like undergrad, like 4-year university, or even grad school. Really wasn't a big thing in my family. They were just like, go to college, go to a college, get in there. And yeah, it was a little tough knowing like there was this expectation on me and knowing that we just didn't have that financially, and kind of navigating, well, where am I going to get the money? And then once I'm in, what do I do now? Like I did the thing, I got in, now what? So I think that was kind of my struggle in undergrad, trying to figure out, what do I want to do? Why am I here? What is my purpose in life? Which I think is a little different from my grad school experience, where I wanted to do this and I know exactly what it is that I want to do, and really cherishing all the experiences. I might be jumping ahead, but yeah.
I totally agree on that. I think that's like very similar to my experiences. I feel like it's just like the shove that they give us, and then because we see what they wanted to do in life and where they come from and like all the struggles, right? And I just feel like it's just like they keep like, pushing us, and we're just like, okay, we have to. And then we're there, and then we're like, now what? You're like, where do I go from here? What do I actually like?
Yeah.
What do I do? And so it's a journey for sure. And especially coming back, you're like, okay, now I know. Now I know what I like. Now I know what I want to do. And this is it. So I totally agree on that.
Yeah. I feel like that was the majority of my youth too, of like, okay, I made it here. Now what? Okay, now I'm in college. Now what? Okay, I've graduated, I have a scholarship. Now, or I have a degree. Now what? So
true.
And no one talks about those other pieces that get you to the next step, right? Because I feel the same way of what you were talking about, Margarita, is that someone said, you need to go to college. I actually think it was a step back from that. I think my parents said, you need to get good grades so you can go to college.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. I actually also come from a older brother, younger sister family. So I'm the older brother, and I have one younger sister who's 2 years younger than me. But I was the one that they were pushing with the education. I think maybe a lot of that has to do with being Filipino and a lot of like the Asian mentality, especially here in the States, of the model minority myth that a lot of Asians have to navigate through here in this country. But yeah, my parents also were just like, get the good grades. If you're not getting the good grades, then you can't get into college. And if you can't get into college, then you can't get a good job. And so there's a fear tactic there too. And getting good grades made it sound simple enough. I have a homework assignment. I need an A. And that's what it was. But then there are these other pieces when you talk about going to college, or even after college when you get the degree, or like what you mentioned, when you're there. I don't know which classes I need to choose. I don't know what kind of job I want to do, but I've been told I have to get a good job. And maybe I've been embedded in, maybe it's been like pounded into my mind to be a doctor, even though I don't want to be a doctor. So where does that take me? And no one told me that maybe internships was the opportunity to like network and get that job after I graduated, after I got the degree. So it was almost like this, I get hit with waves of, yes, I got straight A's. Yes, I'm one of the top students in my high school. I am not getting accepted, or I'm not getting any scholarships. Why am I not getting any scholarships? Because I didn't do extracurricular. But I got into college, so a new high. But then I failed a college class because why did I take geology? I don't care. Like there was those pieces. And then I got the degree, but then I can't get a job. And it was such a mess. I think all of that kind of relates to this first gen identity.
Yeah, I also had an experience like that when I was about to transfer to the UW to get into the bachelor program of communications, actually. And so I was trying to figure out, like, should I do law because my dad told me to? And then I went to go get a job with, like, to be an assistant for a lawyer, which was really cool. And I learned a lot. But that's when I was like, no way, I don't want to do this. This is crazy. I don't even like it. And so then I was here and I'm like, okay, I'll just take like a history class or something and start going from there. And then I loved history, so it was fun. But then slowly I was like, I kind of like media, and I gravitated to that. So that made sense. But definitely, you just don't know like how to get into the door, where, like anything. So you just kind of like test the waters and just figure it out, really.
Yeah. Funny that you mentioned geology and failing that. The only reason I passed geology in college is because of an extra credit project where I had to do like a volunteer thing and then create a kind of like a comic book. And I drew it all and used like cardboard paper or whatever. And that gave me enough extra credit to pass with a C. So, yeah, there were some, I feel like in undergrad, I think growing up, there was this expectation of getting good grades, like you mentioned. And when at least for me, when I'm in a situation where that's not happening anymore, I freaked out. I was like, maybe I'm not good enough to be here. Maybe all of the negative voices are right and this isn't where I'm supposed to be. And I'm going to let down my parents and I'm going to bring dishonor to my family. And those were, I think, in undergrad, I was really depressed because I didn't really know what was happening and I couldn't explain like why I wasn't doing as great. Looking back at it though, I didn't do horribly. I think the perfectionist in me felt like I was doing really bad. But I think part of it is because those core classes that you had to take, there wasn't a lot of room for creativity. And I've learned even in this program in the first couple of quarters, I flourish when I get to be more creative. Textbook learning is cool sometimes and it works for some people, but I think I really have to be hands-on to feel like I'm doing something and accomplishing something. And I don't think I got that too much in at least the first few years of my undergrad. Once I figured out what it is that I wanted to do, which was communications, I think I started to feel more confident and really, I don't know, do better, excel. But yeah, so yeah, the first bit of it is really hard and trying to navigate those classes. And I don't know about you, but I went to Western and there was this advising, like these advisors that were primarily for first year students. And then I was also part of the College Success Foundation, which is for first generation students going to undergrad, which is where I got the College Bound Scholarship, and which is how I found out about it. But there was an advisor assigned to me, 2 advisors. And I didn't feel like I got too much out of that experience for either side. Because, at least for the adult advisor, they looked at my courses, they saw like an A and a B, and they're like, okay, you're doing great. I'm like, okay, but where am I supposed to go? Like, aren't you supposed to help me figure that out? Like, they're like, okay, see you next quarter. And then I stopped showing up after winter quarter. I was like, this isn't helpful. And then the other advisor, I think, was like a student as well. So they were also kind of navigating things. And I don't know if it was just that, like, it's just really hard to sometimes connect when this other person, aka me, is so like feeling so lost. And I also don't really like to share that stuff with people. So my advisor probably thought I was doing great, but internally I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And from that experience, though, I think it was my 3rd year in undergrad, I got the opportunity to be like a student advisor, student navigator for first gen students. And I made extra effort to really encourage them. And I also saw the negative side of it when advisors see that you're not making good grades. And there were times where advisors told my students, like, maybe you should reconsider college. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I was like, what are you? I'm not
Thanks
gonna
for the
say-
help.
Right? I'm like, I'm over here trying to like make these students feel like this is where they're supposed to be. Because it is. Like, they are just as deserving as every other, excuse me, but like every other white kid here.
Mhm.
And this advisor, who's also a person of color, who's experienced things similar, maybe he was just like so far away from the college experience that he was just like, yeah, this isn't for you. Joke's on that advisor, because 2 of my students graduated both in the majors that they wanted to. And one of them, which was like a really hard major, engineering, electrical engineering, he got a job in electrical engineering recently.
Wow.
So I'm like,
There you
Love
go.
it.
you told him he couldn't do it.
Kudos.
Look at him. So,
Yeah.
but
I
yeah.
love that. I actually, I got assigned a mentor and an advisor for first year, transferred here. And they were actually really helpful. And she was really cool. She took me out to like Thai Tom's, helped me like buy a planner, like jot down my classes, like let me know where everything was. She was really, really helpful. So that was really cool. And then showed me to my advisor to go over my quarter, like how I was doing and what classes I would like to do. If I found out what I actually wanted to do, which took longer than expected. And so that was neat and that was actually helpful, but I didn't experience that. And I'm glad that they knew what they wanted,
Yeah.
got there, got a job afterwards too. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I think part of it is like having at least one positive voice, because what your advisor was, that's what I was trying to be for my students, of like, you know what, there's a lot of negativity going on, but you got this. Like, you know what you're doing. You got in. Like, that should be telling enough. You got into this college.
Exactly.
But
Yeah, because I couldn't even imagine if I was told that and knowing where I was at the moment where I'm like, I have no idea where I'm going, what I'm doing, what I like.
Hmm.
And so I can't imagine having them like, well, maybe you should reconsider something else.
Yeah.
Or maybe you shouldn't come to school anymore. I'll probably be fierce. I'll probably be angry. And
I think part of it too is like I have a lot of younger family. So as this podcast is, like I'm the first in my family to go to a 4-year university, get a degree, and now first in my family to go to grad school. And doing this, at least the first undergrad, it was less for me and more for my family, and not just like my parents and my brother, but like the larger whole of them, because there were so many of my cousins who were interested but didn't know if they would be good enough. And then hearing advisors tell other students something like that, I'm like, well, this could happen to my family, and like I would be furious. I was furious. It's like I hope that when my cousins do end up going to college, that they have at least somebody on their side and on their, in their court. And I hope that I can kind of be that and be like, listen, I'm an idiot, but I still got a degree, so you can do it too. Which is pretty much the whole point, is like, someone in our family can do it, that means you can do it too. So
yeah, see, and that's exactly what I saw my sister do. I'm like, she did it, and she was actually also helping me though. Like, this is like literally dragging me to like Seattle Central and like, sign here. This is when you're gonna start, and I'm like, okay, sure. So just kind of trusting her with that, and then seeing that really helped me, even though she didn't continue to graduate school. But again, that's also something that you're not doing it only for yourself, but you're also doing it for everybody in your past and future generations.
Mhm.
So that's really neat. That hit the heart.
I think that's one of the more interesting things about the first gen identity, is that you're kind of the one person who will carry it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like your parents weren't first gen college students. You were. But then if you decide to have kids or anyone after you, they don't actually get to hold that identity because they have you now. How's that feel?
I always tell my parents that I'm going to make my kids think that I'm poor. So they're still like, so they're going to, I feel like, at least from my perspective, when there is someone who's already gone to school, especially like a parent, there may be less pressure to apply for like loans and scholarships and financial aid. And I'm like, oh, I might be better off than like previous generations. But I think that experience does like, it does something to people. And I think that it made an impression on me where I'm like, I don't know what I'm trying to say about this, but it's like, I feel like sometimes when you're not the first to go to college, the financial part of it doesn't feel as important, but it is still just as important. And I would like for my kids to, at least try to, do essays and get scholarships, because I think that experience, even now doing that, because as a grad student, I'm doing this all on my own. Undergrad, I had like the support of my parents. But now it's like, where am I getting this money? It's all by myself and trying to apply for scholarships. That process, I think, helps me better understand myself too, like writing about my story and putting it in a way that other people can maybe be inspired. And I would like for my future children to be like, okay, yeah, my mom went to college, but that doesn't mean that I can get off easy, if they wanted to go to college. That's the other thing. I don't want if I have children in the future, I don't want them to feel like college is the only option, because it's not. Some people flourish in different ways. Like my brother, he went to a year of community college and he hated it. And he went to like a culinary school and he did really great. And I'm like, so, there's tech schools, trade schools, or just like learning some things on your own, but just having this like, I guess just not taking that idea for granted that, oh, my parent went to college, so it'll be easy, but still knowing that it is possible. I guess it's hard to explain, because I'm glad that there's now a path for future generations in my family, but I'm also like struggling with this idea that at what point is it going to be taken for granted? Because there's always a point, I feel.
No, I agree. Yeah, I think having the first gen identity gives you a really unique perspective, not just in your college career, but into your professional career. And then even after that, and how you build and grow relationships and how you yourself grow. Or really, I think that there's just a unique way that first gen students learn. I think that that's the underlying part of it. And how do we make sure that we continue to take that and keep it for future generations? Because that's the thing that first gen continues to fight against, right? Is we are different than some of the other students in this community because we didn't have the kind of resources or knowledge or folks around us who had the knowledge to be in this space. So how do we take the benefits of like telling our future generations, hey, you belong here, and also there were times you probably wouldn't have been.
Yeah.
I think that that's what I think about with my son, is like, because he has a dad who works at a college, who pursued a graduate degree for higher education so I could continue to work with students in these settings, and also has a mom who is incredible in the same field. So he's going to be all over this campus as we work here, and he's going to be surrounded by it. And how do we make sure he doesn't take it for granted?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that makes a lot.
And I think I'm about to contradict myself too just now. The other thing too, though, is like, as your son, he does have a pathway of like better navigating college because his parents went. And that's one thing that I do feel pretty good about as being a first gen. So my children don't take advantage or take it for granted. But if they ever do feel like this is tough and I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't know what classes I'm supposed to, register for, or how do I fill out the financial aid? I'm like, well, I'm here. I know some things. I can kind of help. And starting that with like my cousins too. So like one of them is about to graduate high school and he's already thinking of nursing school, which isn't something I think when he was younger, ever thought was possible. But he's like, oh, Maga, that's my nickname. It's not the Trump thing, but he's like, Maga went to college and look at what she's doing and look at, where her life is. I can do that, which he can. So, but if he needs support, it's like, I'm there. Call me if you need help drafting your essays or figuring out how to apply for financial aid or when to apply. And just feeling like I'm meant to be here. I think that's another thing. So
that's
don't
so valid.
Yeah.
That's so valid. Yeah, I do the same thing with my niece, even though she's like 10. But I'm like, have you thought of any schools? And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm 10. But I'm still just planting that little seed. And I'm just saying, I always like, well, you can go to, because she just moved to Mexico from here. So I'm like, you can also go to different schools and international schools and all kinds of schools. Like, what do you like? And I'm just trying to like feed her, like, anything that she can give me back so I can help her. And I also have her cousin, my brother-in-law's niece, who is from the Bronx. And she's like, it's very difficult to navigate through that community. And so I'm very proud of her. And she went to upstate. And I remember like her first year, she was like, she calls me Titi. She's like, Titi, do you think you can help me with this? Like, I don't really understand this, like with like essays or how did you feel when you went to like games, and how did you feel about like friends and just like questions? And I'm like, oh, that's so cute. And so it's so valid though. But I never thought about like my own kids or like generation, like, because I really, when you're a first gen, like you're like, you have to do it for your parents, right? And you just have like, I have to carry this torch. I have to. But then once you do, and it's like, well, then how am I going to tell my kids? Like, because in a recent podcast, I was just listening to Mark from his last name from Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg, yeah. And he was, I can never, Zuckerberg. And he was just saying how like in the future, he believes that there's not going to be a lot of people attending college because of like the cost and because a lot of people now tend to go more creative, like how you mentioned, Margarita, of like, I don't need school, I could just create my own business from something creative. And so that stuck with me. So I'm like, now that this conversation's here, I'm like, okay, what happens if my kids start thinking like that? Like, I don't want to go to college, Mom. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm just like, what? You have to.
All this hard work I put in, you're not gonna do.
Don't you see where we come from? But I guess it's kind of like you kind of have to just let them be, I guess, in a way. And then, but at the same time, also, I feel it's important to plant seeds and let them know where they came from, where their grandparents, great grandparents, like their history, and see how difficult, and it was not an easy journey, to see if they're interested in even pursuing something much higher. I'm gonna throw in like a pop like thing, but even Meg Thee Stallion, like she's a superstar and she's a rapper, and she just was it her master's degree?
I think so.
Yeah. So it's just like I feel like it's very important to, even though you can be a millionaire and still have like a crazy career, I think it's really like cool to have your education still, because you don't just learn that from the street or anything or anywhere else. I think it's very, very important, but that's just my 2 cents there.
Another funny thing, I think Megan Thee Stallion was actually the reason why I decided I was like, okay, I actually have to go to grad school. I was like, she got a master's and she's that busy. All I have is a job. Like, I was like, I could do it too, which I can. But no, I think I'm wondering, like, is that how your parents and your sisters influenced or like encouraged you to go to college? Was like, look at the generations before you and the struggles that they went through to get you where you're at, because that's kind of, at least that resonated with me a lot.
I think that they just kind of like push me to a point where it's like, well, here, consider this or consider that. Maybe you should do this. It was more of my dad, but I felt like I just needed to push myself more, and also to, in a way, carry that torch, because I feel like, okay, my sister helped me, my parents helped me, and so therefore I also need to help myself and push myself more so I can then help them, right? And so in a way, yeah, but not like forcefully or anything like that. But yeah, and then on top of that, you see like your grandparents, and then hear their stories, how they, for example, they didn't even finish school. They finished first grade and just worked the farms. And so, and then seeing how difficult their life was, like how much they wanted to do things in life. And so when you're like thinking like, oh my gosh, I wish my grandma like had that chance, to attend school or even work, instead of like taking care of so many kids or just not doing what she wants, that gives me even more of a drive to be like, okay, I want to do this for my grandma and for my dad and for my mom and everybody. And obviously for myself and for the generation, for the community. I feel like it's just like everybody involved. So, sentimental.
It's really interesting that both of you brought that up, because I feel like, and maybe this is just from my personal perspective, but also maybe I think kind of rampant in Asian American families, is that amount of pressure is what caused a lot of overwhelming anxiety and I would say even depression for a lot of students who are being told like, you need to do this because we didn't have it in the past. Your grandparents didn't have it and we don't have it, and we work so hard to make sure that you had it. So don't take it for granted or you're in big trouble. And I found that really interesting for me, because I think that that's what unfortunately was the biggest drive for me to keep getting the good grades, was because I was kind of scared not to. And I think when I think about my kid now, what's the most important part for me is, how do I tell him about the college experience that doesn't push him into thinking he needs to absolutely do this to survive or to be successful, which I think is a whole nother thing of how you define success, especially when it comes to first gen students, but also the mentality that they may have been given growing up of what success is. How instead do I pivot that for him so that he knows the thing about college that's really great is that you are surrounded by other people who just want to learn. It's such a micro culture, but it is also embedded in learning. And you don't really get that community or atmosphere anywhere else, where everyone is there because they are pursuing some kind of education. But take the word education out of there. They're really just trying to learn, not just from the content that they're learning from professors, but from each other. How do I fit in this field that I have interest in? That's kind of the direction I'm hoping to go with for my kid, because I don't want him to feel the pressures of having to be successful or follow this pathway because that is how our family in the past has defined success. Especially now, when if you become a professional gamer, you could make millions of dollars. We make that joke all the time, me and my wife, like, buddy, just get really good at video games, start streaming, and then all sorts of people will start partnering with you, and that's how you make the money. But to both of yours points about like Megan Thee Stallion, I think that is a perfect example of like, yes, I can have all of this. I can still have success and I can still pursue learning.
Exactly. That's exactly how I felt after graduating, and then like being in the job field, and then I just miss it. Actually, that's like also another part of coming back to school, because I'm like, I really enjoy being around other people that just want to learn. And that's so important because it's completely different out in the job field. You could still go to like different career jobs or have a title, and that company can help you with getting certificates or, attending more classes, but it's nothing like attending a whole master's degree, right? So, and then being around that environment is just so different. And so I feel like that's part of why I wanted to come in, because it's such a vibe. It's cool. Like for me, I like learning.
Yeah.
I got one for the both of you then. So let's pivot then to grad school. I want to hear the grad school journey, but let's use that first gen lens on it. What were some of the why did you decide to go to grad school? What were some of the challenges that maybe came up for you in relation to your first gen identity?
Megan Thee Stallion. No, I think coming from undergrad, once I got that bachelor's degree, I was like, I'm done. I did it. Now I get a job and I become an adult, And I don't think I ever really considered grad school until I don't remember how I learned about it, but I want to say it was somewhere either just before COVID or just after the height of the pandemic. But when I learned about the Comm Lead program, I was like, maybe I want to do that. Because the job that I was in, it was like a pseudo internship, and it was under this comm specialist at King County Stormwater, and I thought she did really cool. And I was like, I don't know how you do this stuff. I don't know where you learned how to. All I really did was learn about communications. I don't know how to implement it. And I think getting that experience of learning from her really helped me out. And it also kind of pushed me away from the idea of grad school a little bit. Because I'm like, well, I'm already learning it in my work. I don't need to learn it in school and pay like more money to learn in school. But that was more of the community engagement aspect of it. And it wasn't until my job recently where I realized I don't really know much about the digital media aspect of communication. And that's where, I grew up with technology, and I've always been really interested in doing something with technology. I don't know what. I still don't know what yet. It's a common theme. But I did know that there were some things in my job that we were lacking in terms of like virtual and digital communication, that maybe if I took this program, I could learn those skills and then bring them back to my work and help improve our community engagement. So a lot of it has always been like community focused of why I do what I do. And I think the Comm Lead program just kept coming up on my socials or like on if I'm watching YouTube or something, I don't remember, but I just kept going back to it for like 4 years. And then I was finally like, I should do it. I should try it, because even though I did accomplish the main goal, getting a bachelor's, why does my family have to stop there? And it's always a family thing. It's not just me, but like, why does the family have to stop there? And also knowing that the percentage of Latinas who have a master's is like 8 or 9%. I could contribute to that number and help increase that if I go, because I've done it once, I know I can do it again, kind of thing, So, and this experience actually is a lot better than my undergrad experience, because I think I know the ropes a little bit more, and I'm less focused on how other people are perceiving me and how other people may be doing better than me in certain things, and really just doing this to learn and taking that, like, this is what I'm learning and what I'm going to be able to like take back and contribute to either my family or my community. And that's pretty much why I decided. I don't remember what your question was.
That was it?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Yeah. Just how, looking at how you were entering grad school or pursuing graduate education with the lens of that first gen identity. So I think you hit it right there. And I'm going to bring up some of those pieces up again. But first, I want you, Michelle. Go ahead.
Yeah, mine was not Meg the Stallion, but it was a combination of a lot. It was seeing where I was in my career, and at the time when I came to check it out, like check out that program. I think it was in December 2023. Yeah, because it took almost like a whole year to get in. And it was just so crazy where I was at the time. But also just seeing my friend who, because yeah, you're right. Like after graduating and getting your BA, you're like, okay, I'm done. Like I'm in my head too. I was like, I'm not going to go back to school. Like, why do I need school? I'm already like a grown up. Like I have my career. I'm cool. Like I don't need any of that. And then up until like you go through your whole journey, you're like, this is not right. Like you said, I don't know, something just kind of like kept pulling me back to come back. And so, and then also I saw my friend who just graduated, got her BA, and then just had a baby, and she went back to get her master's degree. I was like, superwoman, right? And I was like, if she can do that, right? Like,
Yeah, I can do it too.
But at that time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was just like, okay, I graduated, and then my sisters were living in New York, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll just probably go to New York and then see if I can get into MTV or something. I don't know, something like crazy and just figuring out my life. But then something happened here where I was like just doing a search online, like what's the job field like in Seattle? What are we doing over here? And then I saw SEO and I was like, what is SEO? And then my curiosity just like, let me just apply and see what happens. And they're like, we can teach you from ground up, all this. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay. So then it just like developed there. And then I was like, throughout the years, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do SEO, but it was really fun because it was like a startup. So I learned social media and it was all digital, social media, like SEO development, photography, like just learning literally from each and every department. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. I specifically like design, but it was so hard to get into design if you really do not know like the specifics, because that was only in SEO. And it's like, how am I going to get into design? So it took me through a whole journey. Like I went through different jobs. I went through different companies, different titles, and it got to the point where I was like, okay, I was homeless for like 6 months. I lost my my apartment. I lost my job. I broke up with my boyfriend of 6 years. It was like crazy. So I was like, okay, this is like a calling. I think I need to just come back and then get it together. So then, yeah, I remember very well. I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is it in December 2023. And then I applied and then I got like a job. So I slowly started like treading back. And I was like, then I realized I really like design. I'm going to see if I can like stick to design classes. And then, because I like developing websites. So I'm like, I just don't know like programs or anything like that. Again, like it's very difficult to get in that field and knowing like what is it, like what can I learn, how can I learn, what can people like tell me, and I'm in different fields too all the time, so I'm like, let me just see what I can do with that. And then yeah, I got in and I'm like really happy that I'm like able to take different courses and really apply that to my job right now. And then all of a sudden I got not all of a sudden, but I did apply like my butt off to all kinds of jobs. And then I finally landed a digital marketing manager role. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like just recently too, at the beginning of this year. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like my life is getting back together after so long. So it was really rough, but it was like so worth it. Like I wouldn't change it in the world, even though it was like hard, like depressing, but I navigated through all of that just to kind of find my way to seeing what I really like. And again, even then, like I was like, what do I like? What is SEO? Like, do I even like SEO? Or do I even like marketing? I started just questioning my life. So it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. But yeah, like you said, Margarita, that you kind of know the ropes now coming back, and you're like, I remember this back from when I was getting my BA. You just don't know, and then you come back and you're like, okay, I remember this, and then you enjoy even more because it's creative. You get hands on, and it's like you don't necessarily have to take these tests. Back when you were in getting your BA, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to, pass this. I cannot fail my family. Like, you start thinking all crazy. And so that's the part about like the whole journey coming back to get your master's degree, because it's just so different.
Yeah.
And doing it by yourself too, like, kudos to you, because I'm also doing that as well. And it's just a different lifestyle, like, mentality. And even then, I feel like after this, we're going to be like, oh, we're grown. We know we got our career going. But there's always something. There's always something.
But that's so cool, though. You two are bringing something up for me, which is I'm still trying to kind of form the idea. But the two of you kind of started off those explanations saying like, no, I already got the bachelor's degree. Why do I have to keep going? And that resonated so hard for me, because that's true. I remember the commencement speaker saying, you are now part of the top 3 or 5% of the world that has a higher education degree. I'm like, oh, I can get a job. Top 3, I can get a job. And I didn't. I worked at like Best Buy for a year, and like that's not what I was hoping to do with my English teaching degree.
It's a lot. That wave of coming back is just, the journey itself is crazy. And I don't know.
But what we can say about the folks here, though, is that we kind of fought it a little bit. Oh, I already got the degree. I should just be getting the job now. I think I waited about 5 years till I decided to go back to school. And I remember the moment I got a job at Seattle University in their multicultural affairs office. And I was so excited because this is the work that I actually did feel really energized about. And I remember walking with my director just around the campus. It was only like my first couple of days. And she asked me, like, do you like this stuff? Do you want to do this as a career? And I was like, yeah, this is what I would like to do. I'd love to do what you're doing at some point. And she's like, you're going to need a master's degree in this. I'm like, there's a master's degree to do this? It's like, yeah, you can get a degree, and this school offers it, that higher education degree, and you could learn about how to work with college students. How come no one told me? And that was the moment where I was like, am I about to go back to school? Is it really about to happen? And I love the questions that you two asked yourselves when you were thinking about pursuing things, or even just thinking about like SEO, right? Michelle, you were talking about how, do I like SEO? Is this something? What is this? Do I want to like dive deeper? I think that again goes back to how folks who are first gen learn, and they embrace that kind of learning. And even though we've climbed this mountain of education and we got the degree that everyone's been hounding us about, I think there was something kind of beautiful about the stories that you two have mentioned, that really pursuing a graduate degree felt like it was just mine. It was all mine. I'm paying for it. I decided I wanted to go do this. I decided I wanted to learn more. And so I'm going to go do it. I did the same thing. My parents helped with financial aid for my bachelor's, but I said, no, I wanted to do this master's. I got it. And I'm still doing that. I'm still paying for that, unfortunately. But it was something that feels entirely mine. And I think my time at a grad program too, I felt like I did the most learning in that space because I was so in it. Do you two feel like you're doing that in Comm Lead? Like, are you like in it?
I feel like I am. And I feel like, so again, it kind of goes back to pressure. Before January, I had already started my first quarter in Comm Lead, and I did not have a full-time job. So then and I was a full-time student. And then I remember asking some classmates, like, do you have a full-time job? And how does it feel? And are you tired all the time? And like just questioning them. And they're like, yeah, no, I'm tired. Yeah, it can get hard, And I'm like, okay. So then I had my full-time job. And then I was like, let me try the full-time, full-time everything. And so it kind of kicked my butt. And I tried it. And then again, I was like, like, no, I have to do it because I have to graduate in December and, like I have to do it. But then somebody was like, so why do you have to graduate in December again? And I'm like, you know what? I don't know. I just put that pressure on myself because I'm just so used to like our family being like, come on, like you're going to do it. Right. So then that's when I was like, okay, maybe let me just do part-time school and then full-time work. And just that, I feel like that kind of helped me personally be more into it, dive in more, because it gave me time to really sit there and like take my time with it, and as well as do my personal hobbies and just have time, and also not then, and just also remember, like, what is the pressure? Like, why am I putting so much pressure if I don't necessarily have like a specific plan intact after graduating December for me, right? And so it would be different if like I had a job that was like, okay, Michelle, by January 2026, you have to move to Houston and you have to be there and, everything has to be ready. Like I would do that, but I don't have anything lined up like that. So that's when I was like, okay, let me just take a step back. And then that helped me dive in completely and understand different concepts of courses and just take my time with it. And I enjoy it. So I'm not sure if that's where you are, because I know you're full-time both. Yeah.
I think kind of what you had mentioned of like, why am I forcing myself to do this in this time period? That's how I was in undergrad. I was like, I have to be done in 4 years, because that's when certain scholarships of mine like run out, and then I'm not going to have money, so I have to get it done at this time. And I think the first year of undergrad, I took all like the max amount of credits every quarter, and I was like, I'm dying. And that was just school. Like I didn't have a job at the time. It was just school. And so this time around, knowing that grad school is a lot like more time consuming, or like it is more time demanding, I had to go slow with it at the beginning. So I did the required class and just that class my first quarter. And then I was like, I can do full-time school, full-time work, it'll be fine. And that's where I'm at right now, is doing full-time work and full-time school. And it is kicking my butt. I think it's not necessarily because I want to be done in a certain time, but more just like courses are only available at certain times. And I really want to take the ones that are going to, at least in my head and like from my perspective, help me grow not only in like work, but also that creativity portion of me. I really like to learn new things, and these are the only time they're available, so I gotta take them. But yeah, I think one thing that's also just keeping me in it and keeping me going is my work team. They're always checking up on me, because they're like, you're doing full-time work and full-time school, and it's grad school, and you're always doing other things outside of your work and school. Like, how are you doing? And I actually talked to someone today at work, and they're like, yeah, how's it going? Are you good? I was like, I'm good. I'm thriving. But I do think part of it was like there's this expectation you had to finish at a certain time in undergrad, and now, like you said, Jazz, this is mine. Like I'm doing this for my family, but mostly for myself. Of like, I made this decision. No one made it for me. No one was pressuring me to do it. And I even told my parents, I'm like, my bachelor degree is in their house. It's like hung up in their house. It's like, that's ours. So you can have it at your house, and you can rant and rave to anyone who visits about it and be like, yeah, she got her degree. But this master's is going in my house. Like, that's mine. And I was like, I have to have it for some time. Like, nope, this is mine. I'm doing it all by myself. So yeah, I appreciate you mentioning like, this is for me, because sometimes I do feel a little selfish, but I'm also like, no, I'm doing this. It's all me. And something about being in it too, I think, because my parents have an idea of what it means to get a higher education, and a lot of it still is about the grade. They're like, okay, you're doing good, you're getting an A, like you want that A, And that was how I was in undergrad. But now, I was talking to my mom yesterday about one of my courses, and she's like, I know you really want that A. And I'm like, it's not about the A anymore, Ma. Like, it's really just, I want to do the best that I know I can and feel proud of the work that I'm putting out and know that I can take this learning and like put that into the work that I'm doing now and like help, I don't know, improve certain ways that we do stuff at my job. And I just want to be proud of what I'm doing. I don't care if it's an A or a B, as long as I'm happy with it. That's all that matters. It could be a C. I would hope not, but there's still that little bit of a mindset. But yeah.
So also, my bachelor's degree is also hanging in my parents' house, and I don't really care for it as much. But my master's degree in my office right now, I keep that there. I got the nice frame for it and everything. You know, like that one felt like mine. So that would hit hard. That definitely resonated for me.
Yeah, I'm going to have like a little spotlight on my degree and everything. Like, yeah, I got that. That's all me.
I think that's similar to mine, but I keep mine in a box. I don't know why. And everybody's like, why would you do that? And I'm just like, oh, I mean, it's there. It's there. We all know it's there, you know, but I think at one point I would like to put it in a frame and then, you know, next to the master's degree. That would be cool. I just don't know if it's going to be my house or their house.
Right. You know what's so funny, though? When I tell people that my degree is at my parents' house, they're usually like, why? Like, that's yours. And you should you should have it hanging in your office when I had an office and all that stuff. I was like, but it's not mine. It's a collective effort. And that's just how I've always seen that. So, yeah, maybe that's why I care less about having it with me versus like the masters that I'm gonna get. I'm like, no, that's mine.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all have one, I have one. So we're equal now.
When you think about just the first gen identity, all the struggles that it comes with, the different kind of mindsets and perspectives that it provides, it's also kind of a product of just other identities that you may have. Right? Whether that's either race or class or immigration status. And so I was just wanted to know, when you think about your first gen identity, what other parts of you come up? Is it your like identity as a person of color? Is it your identity as like your parents being immigrants? Or like I'm second generation Filipino American, which means I was born here, but my parents came from the Philippines to here. So they're first gen Filipino American, but I'm first gen college student.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? I felt privileged. Coming in and coming. So my friends were born here, and they're also Mexican or Central American, but somehow I just felt like privileged because a lot of my friends from back home, they didn't have any papers or they couldn't even come to college with me. So I just had like almost like slight guilt in a way, but also like having that privilege of like, oh my gosh, I'm here and I can do this. Like it was a weird feeling. It was like bittersweet in a way. And then it was like it was sweet because I'm here and I'm an immigrant myself. I was born in Mexico City and my parents were born in Mexico. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I made it, you know, like, but then I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel privileged because a lot of my friends didn't. And, you know, and I easily couldn't have either. So it was like a weird feeling of bittersweet. So yeah, just trying to navigate through that feeling and trying to just push myself through. At the same time, also like talk to them and then, I don't know, like trying to guide them the best I could and ask them like, what do you feel like doing now? Or are you going to wait for your DECA or what's going to happen, you know? And yeah, some try to get into other careers and even then it was difficult because it was a halt. So yeah, it was like bittersweet for me.
the ones that come up for me are being Mexican American. My dad was an immigrant from Mexico, but my mom grew up in Arkansas, and like her mom grew up in the South area, South US. So there was this weird, what generation am I Mexican? I'm like, I'm an X generation Mexican because technically my mom was born here and her generation's past, and my dad wasn't born here. So on his side, I'm like second gen, but on my mom's side, I'm not. And I think a bit of privilege comes with that too, is having a mom who was able to take a lot of the burden of being a second gen Mexican child, because she was the one who was helping my dad understand like paperwork and navigating how to get a job up when we moved up to Washington, which is so funny. My dad, he went up to a construction site and was like, "Hey, are you hiring?" And they're like, "Are you good?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then they hired him, and he was really good. He still works in construction now, but I think there was also this expectation of like, yeah, just go to a job and say like, "Hey, are you hiring?" I was like, I don't think that's how it works for me. I don't think that's gonna work. But coming from a low income household too, and kind of navigating that experience, knowing that, at least for me, when I went to undergrad, I felt very, I don't know if outcasted is the right word, but I felt like I wasn't a part of this community, because a lot of the people that I met there were upper middle class and didn't have the same upbringing or experience as me, and like that kind of struggle, and it was really hard to relate to them sometimes. And then I think I also went to a very white college too, and I didn't see a lot of, I think the Latinos that I did see at my college were the ones that I went to high school with, and I was like, "Hey, I know you." But then I didn't really get to hang out with them too much because we were in different majors and stuff. So I think that was also a fear for me coming to grad school, knowing like, okay, there's the percentage of Latinas who have a master's is really low, so the percentage of Latinas in this program is probably going to be really low. And actually, Michelle, I saw you in our first class, and I was like, "Oh, yes."
Yep.
You and Get, and I was like, I need to talk to them because like maybe we can relate. But then like, yeah, having that bit of privilege, knowing that I do have friends from my youth that didn't didn't seek higher education. Part of it was probably because they were also like in the low income environment and didn't think that was something that was possible. And part of it's probably because of DACA, especially now with a lot of students, like how, with our current administration, how are they navigating this? And that's something that I fortunately don't have to consider when I'm attending grad school. But I also acknowledge that that is a huge privilege that I have, and that there are some people that are struggling with that, and it sucks. I don't know how best to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. I had that privileged sense. Actually, that's really crazy because I had that privileged vibe when I transferred to the UW. I did not have that feeling at all when I went to Seattle Central. And it's because a lot of people from my high school ended up going straight to the UW or straight to Wazoo or straight to like, what's the other school? It was like,
There's like Western,
yeah.
Central.
Central. Mm-hmm. So everybody ended up going to like larger universities. And then for a lot of people were like, "Oh, you're going to just like a Seattle set, like you're just going to community college." And I'm like, "Yeah, like what's wrong with that?" You know? And they were like, "Oh, I just assumed you were going to go to like the UW or something." And I'm like, "No." Like in my head, I'm like, this is like easier because one, I don't know what I'm going to do. Two, it's cheaper. Right. And then three, I'm getting like scholarships and it's really helpful and it's closer to home. And I just wanted to be like closer to home. But in their mind, they're like, "Oh, you know, you didn't go to the big schools like straight after high school." Like, and I was like, yeah, but there's some friends here too, probably just like 2 or 3, but everybody else went to like larger universities. So I just at that point I was like, I didn't feel like privileged or anything, but I also was like, yeah, whatever. Like, at least I'm going to school.
Yeah, at least I'm doing something.
Yeah,
you know?
and that was a major different feeling of entering college, like community college, and then UW transferring there. So it was such a different feeling and vibe. I never actually really thought about it, to be honest.
But that's such a mindset, though. I think, especially like with families with first gen students, is that you've got to go to a school that maybe is a name that your parents know. I always thought that that was really interesting too. I thought if I couldn't do university, maybe I go to community college too. But then there was always this kind of stigma around that. Now, obviously, with a master's degree in higher education, I know that like that's an education is an education, and that's what's important. And like utilize the resources and the support that you have. And the Seattle colleges system is actually a really great system too. They've got really great school. They're really great schools, and they got really great people in those schools right now too. I wanted to work at the Seattle colleges because it just feels like there's more energy and passion in there, I think, right?
Small classes as well.
And small classes. And you speaking a little bit on my experience too, when I decided to finally go to college, I just did not apply to the UW because I didn't think I could get in and I didn't want the rejection letter. I was too scared about it. I instead applied to technically the only school that was accepting applications was Western.
Yeah.
So I am a Western alum also. And I loved my time at Western. I'm really glad I did go because I think that I would have had a different mindset if I went if I followed the stigma of like getting the big school name attached to this degree so that I could say that I went there. And I think that does still fall into that first gen mentality. And it's so important for us. And I think what's really cool is that because you have that experience now, you can share that with your community, which is an interesting thing that you all are you continue to bring up, is how much of what you do and what you've done goes back to your community. I think that is also intersecting with some of your identities because I feel the same way.
I love how you said that you didn't apply to UW. I remember in undergrad, I applied to a few different colleges, Western, WSU, and UW was on the list. And I was filling out the application, and I think I just forgot to finish it. And my mom had asked, like, okay, did you get any letter from UW? I was like, no, I don't think I got in, because I knew I forgot. And also, I didn't want to go. I was like, I visited this campus, and I thought it was cool, but I was like, I don't think I'm gonna fit in here. And then Western, just the environment, like the geographical environment felt very similar to home for me. So I was like, I want to be here. And it was a smaller school. And I was like, I think I liked that it was smaller. I also didn't realize how big a UW was. I mean, I grew up here and I know that there's like the UW medical centers and everything. For some reason, for the longest time, it never clicked that it was related to the college. And I think it wasn't until recently when I was in this program, people are like, this is like one of the top 10 like schools, like you're in it and da 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 da. And I was like, oh, it really be that school.
It is. It's that school.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well.
That's so funny you say that because I used to work, I'm not going to say the company, but at the company where I was, there was a manager there that wanted to move towards getting their master's degree. And then they were like telling him, why don't you go to this one school? It's online and it's cheaper. And they're like, nope, I'm going to the UW. Like you wanted that stamp, the UW stamp. So yeah, I didn't think about it either until like people start telling you and you're like, oh, yeah, I guess you're right.
I got into the UW. Okay, now I'm one of those people.
So it's just so interesting how those kind of stigmas kind of pop up for us. And how different it was for you two in going into grad school, though, because it doesn't look like that was a big part of that conversation or our decision making was what the university was. It really was, again, about the learning piece and what was the most interesting for the both of you. So That's
Yeah.
great. I'm going to try to get us back to grad school. What are ways that grad programs, so like Com Lead, can be more supportive of first gen grad students?
I feel like there's so many ways. I This could be just a me experience thing, but when it comes to advising, because of my experience in undergrad, um, I feel like I still struggle with the idea of like seeking out Heather and asking her questions in terms of, the program and what courses I should probably be considering. And maybe that's just a me problem, but if there was a way to help encourage first gen students to really reach out and maybe even like have someone who's a first gen and has the experience seeking out these students too and be like, hey, have you talked to Heather? Do you want to talk to Heather? Like, I can set something up and we can like all chat and like have some sort of close-ish relationship with somebody. I think that's the thing that I struggle with most, and I don't know if it's because of the collective mindset that my culture is, but like having somebody that's there that can also like has a similar experience and further encourage you to seek out support. I think that would really benefit a lot. That would benefit me a lot. I wonder if that would benefit other first gen a lot, but
I agree. I felt like when looking into the program, I had to dive in and look into like who to talk to, where the advisors are, like what time, and like just dive in. And it took a while, I think I eventually got into talking with Heather. But there were times where there were people where they had to kind of guide me to go over here and go over there and talk to this person, and then I just kind of called departments and just pretty much Googled everything. But kind of going back to my first gen year in here, but for my BA, I had that mentor, and that was like super helpful. So if somebody was like mentoring you or at least kind of guiding you more into the program and then letting you know like the in and outs, even though they did do that in the December 2023 like meeting, what is it called when you
Open
first come in?
house?
Yeah, the open house. There were other students who graduated, alumni who were telling their story. But how can we get those students when somebody's out of that place, right, out of that meeting? Like, how can we find them and guide us through that? Does that make sense? Like, because I have no idea. Like, I'm like, okay, my first idea is like, I want to go to grad school and I want to go to like see communications. Like, I want to learn more about it. But who is the right person to kind of guide me through that? And how can I find them? And how can they help me similarly to my experience when I was getting my BA with that mentor?
mm-hmm.
I have to actually come in and figure out like where, when, why, how, like all of that information. So I think that would probably be helpful.
I think now that you mentioned that, two other things come up for me. One, with the open houses, maybe there is a dedicated open house in the future that's tailored towards first gen students, or potential first gen grad students. Those who are kind of like how we were like, I don't know if I really need this, but having an open house to hear from like different perspectives and different experiences of those students maybe would have encouraged me sooner to take this program. I think that I'm taking it at the perfect time for myself now, but at least hearing stories might have been like, okay, let me consider this a little bit more. And then having our orientation, I think it would have been nice to have like a dedicated time where there could be like a first gen meet and greet amongst your cohort, because our cohorts aren't small. So trying to, meet new people. So that's one challenge in of itself, is like meeting new people and making those connections before school starts. But then finding people who are also first gen. I think the only reason I know you're first gen is because of this, and I think because of our courses together.
Mm-hmm.
I think usually first gen students, when we meet each other, we're like, okay, we'll talk about being first gen students. But having that opportunity at like an orientation to really learn off the bat and kind of build that community, or even during I think they're like quarterly meet and greets, like having alumni that are first gen, maybe like a little on their name tags, like first gen, like name first gen. And then for me, if I saw that, I'd probably be like, oh, let me go talk to them, because they're going through it. They've experienced it. They have potentially have a job after this program, and I want to learn and hear from them. I think that would be really cool way to support first gen students, is building that community.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that it's something naturally that we gravitate to when you find another person that is like similarly to what you're going through. And I think that's always been the case in a funny way, like specifically with some students in first quarter, you're like, oh, so like you start getting to know them and you're like, oh, so you're first gen too, huh? And so, but you don't know about these things because it's not really gradually there, or so that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I appreciate the both of you providing some context and some insight on how to support first gen graduate students. You've got me thinking about all sorts of different things, but mainly what's great is that I feel like so much of our experiences resonated with one another. And I never really thought about the first gen mindset in graduate school before, but I think one of the biggest takeaways was that degree feels like it's all mine. I think that was one of the things I never really considered before when talking about this particular subject together. So I appreciate the both of you being here. Margarita, Michelle, thank you both for coming here to talk about your first gen identity. You two were wonderful, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your time in Comm Lead.
Yay!
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Yay! We
made it.
Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast, Michelle and Margarita. And thank you for listening to Leading the Way. Please make sure to subscribe to our feed on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll be back with more episodes soon. See you next time on Leading the Way.